Monday, January 19th, we pay respect to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. here at Broadview with a special 60s throwback program. Josh was on the scene to bring us some of the highlights of the night.
I'm Joshua Hicks here reporting live from Broadview Missionary Baptist Church, where the youth ministry led the MLK service here in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was a great show, lots of support from the audience, and great performances by our youth ministry and different organizations such as Wings of Worship, Drill Team, and the Drum Line. Here are some snippets of our service earlier today. Can you please, sir, tell us what it was like to plan all of this out?
Man, the planning was something that took time, it took effort, it was intense, but I'm so proud of our young people, man. I can't express how proud I am because they were willing to go the extra mile. God has put something in our young people here at Broadview that the world needs to see. Their effort, their diligence, their patience. I'm a guy that likes to be pretty straightforward and I like to be stern about what I do, but they keep up with it and they know it's for the cause of Christ.
I want to say first grade. Honestly, first grade in the history books. That was my first real experience of learning about Dr. Martin Luther King. It wasn't even necessarily the history book, but a library book.
Growing up, my mom has very much so instilled it in me. She's taught me bits and pieces about it. Also from what I've heard from like television and books. And
just the history of Martin Luther King, growing up watching movies about Martin Luther King was just something that really inspired me.
We must overcome evil with good. The evil of an ill temper can be overcome with expressions of love.
To love endlessly, like to love even your enemies, even the ones who hasn't done right by you. And it's just like that's something you really have to take with you.
Love encountered to everyone and not just the black people. Even in the movie Selma, it showed movies where he was like, you know, if you were white, but you believe in the same cause as what we're trying to fight for, come through. He did not discriminate against this being an all-black march. He didn't discriminate making an all-men's march, all-women's march. He included everybody because he saw everybody as one person. He didn't see them as, at the time, others looked at us as maybe just black people or other people just white people. He didn't believe in discrimination. He believed that God created everybody on this earth for love, to love one another.
But we must remember that Dr. King was a preacher first and then an activist second.
Dr. King's life and ministry taught me that with God, anything is possible.
He always had prayer with his team before approaching a problem, march, rally, or other event.
Out of all the speeches that Dr. King made, the one that resonates with me is his mountaintop speech, because it contains the words that every Christian ought to have as their mantra. That is, I just want to do God's will.
You got to get a base, and that base is Christ. That's what I learned. You know, I learned that you can do nothing without him.
You have to keep praying, keep faith.
More Christ-like. Christ, you know, I think we are a chosen people because we have had all of the prejudices and the beatings and killings and lynchings. They tend to come to us, but Martin Luther King taught us how to handle that through Christ, because he's the ultimate fixer. He is going to fix it, whatever is going on, even today. He's going to fix it. Hope it's like the road of faith. It keeps you going, because if you have no hope, then you have despair.
That you can basically, as long as you have to put in the work, you grind, you do what you have to do, and be patient with the situation, it'll all work out for you at the end of the day. When I was a little kid, it was a movie called Our Friend Martin. I watched that movie right before I protested. I looked it up on YouTube, because I didn't have the actual thing. It was so old, I still got the cassette tape. So it was really old. But when I watched it on YouTube, and that helped me prepare for this protest.
Probably when I started learning the Bible, because you know, I was in my late 20s, I believe, before I learned the Bible, read the Bible. And, you know, those things that how he lived his life, now I see that. You know, how you live loving the unlovable, peaceful, you know. Those are hard lessons for me because I'm so forceful. And it's hard to give up your life and let God do the work for you. And, you know, I'm always for a cause. If I'm for a cause, you know, I guess because I am a 60s child, you know, I like causes. I like to fight for causes and fight for those who don't have. But there's a way to fight. And that's how I view Martin Luther King. He taught us the way to fight.
And when that time, you know, announced itself for me to be able to protest and use my leadership role to make some form of a noise, I guess you would say, and what I'm really fighting for, Martin Luther King helped me inspire that, especially in the peaceful and godly manner that he projected within his marches, within his protests, and within the speeches that he was using to help stand up for the people.
He was used as an example of how to handle the difficulties, how to handle when people don't like you, how to handle things aren't fair. Okay, life is not fair. God never told us it was going to be fair. So he was that example for us.
When I left Mississippi and moved to Illinois, I was anxious to get to Illinois because I was working and making $1.25 a day. And I wanted to get to Illinois to go to university, to get an education so I could improve my employment life. My bus trip here was very, I don't know what you would call the word. I guess it was humiliating because there was a black curtain hung on the bus where blacks sat in the back and whites were in the front. And if a lot of whites got on, they kept moving the drape back until many of us had to stand. It was very humiliating.
His understanding of the fact that not everything's going to be done at once. It takes time, it takes patience, but it also takes a lot of tenacity and perseverance and never giving up in order for you to achieve the ultimate goal that you want to fulfill. Even though he knew that it was going to be a tough ride and he could have easily given up, he persevered for what he was really fighting for.
So when I got to Illinois and started college, of course, I got with the first group that was protesting. We organized so we could have an African-American grocery checker at the A&P, which is similar to the Jewel. We had 25% per population was African-American and no clerks. So finally we got that done. It was a big project. At that time they were having FBI dossiers on people that were in civil rights because they call them all communists, and of course we weren't. Ask the Lord, what is your assignment? The least I can do is vote, appreciate my job and my housing, etc., and be kind, compassionate, and tenderhearted toward my fellow man. I shall never forget meeting Dr. King as a teenager and how he inspired me to act because of his love for mankind, his faith in God and our country, his hope for the future, his pursuit of peace, and his perseverance in staying the course until his goals of equal opportunity and civil rights and voting rights were reached for all. To God be the glory for sending Dr. King.
I like to end with the closing paragraph of Dr. King's mountaintop speech, where he said, well, I don't know what will happen now. We got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me because I've been to the mountaintop.
I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.